This is intro to sacred psoas. Sacred psoas, I call it the sacred psoas. Other people call the muscle the sacred psoas. The psoas is a muscle in the body. It's one of the hip flexors. Flexing the hip is shortening the front of the hip joint. And there's many hip flexors. Psoas is maybe the most popular. It's a long muscle. We'll see the image goes from the solar plexus down to the inner groin on either side. It's like the shape of a capital A. And a lot is stored in the psoas. For example, women, every time you menstruate, the psoas shortens. And then every time you're done with your cycle, it re-lengthens, but there's a memory. You're an organic system, and every organic system experiences what's called ontology, meaning it remembers everything that ever happened to it. That's why I was an environmental engineer. That's my PhD. There's no such thing as ecosystem restoration, soft face. There's no such thing as ecosystem restoration because you can never restore an ecosystem, because after you've damaged it, it always remembers it. It's kind of like you can never really apologize to what you said when you were angry, because you can't unbreak the dish kind of thing. So there's a lot stored in the psoas when we talk about like trauma, for example. I've worked with handfuls of people with PTSD, with spinal nervous system injuries, and others trauma. Lots of people have lots of trauma. We all have something, and some people take it harder. And a lot of that is stored in the hip flexors and in the chest, in that musculature. You re-stimulate some of those things when you tap into those. And so a lot of it's about like creating the space for the expression. The trauma just wants to be expressed and acknowledged, in my experience. And this is like my personal alchemy. When I feel something, I communicate with it internally. Inner dialogue. I literally go inside, I say to my psoas, hey, how you doing? And I check in with my psoas. I check in with my pituitary gland. I check in with my heart, my diaphragm, or I'm driving across the country and something wants to spasm and I say, hey, how you doing? What can I do for you? This is what I say internally to those body parts. And a lot of times, nothing. It just goes away as soon as I start talking to it, as if it just wanted some attention. And which is cool, I get that. So this is sacred psoas. The psoas, it's a deep muscle, you know? And when we talk about core strength, there's belly strength and there's core strength. There's the core of the earth that is the equator, and there's the core of the earth that's the center. You know, we're dealing with the center, not just the equator. Why call it the sacred psoas? Maybe it's the alliteration. Even though psoas is spelled with a P, I like the double S. There's a phenomenon in modern people of a lot of asymmetries because of how we live, especially like driving. If you could record yourself driving and speed it up, like speed up the film, what you would see is the left leg staying still and the right leg going like this. And so that's a hip flexor on the right side, you know, that's doing that, keeps lifting the leg. The left leg's not moving. Now, if you're like me, I'm sitting, I'm changing my seats, I'm switching legs while I'm driving, but it's inevitable. And so when I think of muscles, I think of them as either long or short, tense or relaxed, strong or weak. 3 independent variables. They're orthogonal to each other like XYZ coordinates. And especially with the psoas, length and softness is very important. When there's tension in the psoas, when it won't release, you get a lot of lower back pain. You get the banana back or the butt sticking out kind of thing, phenomenon. When you have shortness on one side versus the other, what you have, I don't have my skeleton right here, but you have a sacrum, which is the bottom of the spine. It's an inverted triangle. And you have your pelvis, which is 2 bones called the iliums. You have the left ilium and the right ilium. They're fused together at the front, at the pubis, but it's not a fusion, it's a cartilage. And then in the back is a joint between the ilium and the sacrum, the sacroilium joint, the sacroiliac joint on either side. Yeah, so it's the lower back. Below the lower back really, it's the pelvis. And so when one psoas is shorter than the other, it will create a rotation in one way or the other of the ilium, and that will result in SI pain. So a lot of SI pain is because it's offset. You can go to a chiropractor, reset it, but if you don't address the muscle tension pattern that created it, it's just going to come back. But I'm not knocking chiropractors. I've needed them sometimes because I couldn't get myself back into place and it was painful. And so they do it, and then I need to do my yoga therapy to prevent it from happening again. Overstretching. A lot of times the symptom of you feel the achiness and stretching feels good in the moment, but it's often exacerbating what's causing it. A lot of times it's not a stretch that's needed, it's more engagement. And there is an overemphasis, I think, on relaxation. And a lot of times relaxation happens as an effect of exertion. You cannot only inhale. Sometimes you got to exhale. You can't only relax. Sometimes you got to engage. And when you clarify the polarity of the pendulum, if we want to talk about alchemy, the balance reveals itself. But if you keep going one direction with it, the balance is out of sight. You got to go both ways with it. To relax a tense muscle often is pulsing it. You pulse a tensed muscle and it will give. If you contract the antagonist of a tense muscle, it will give. And so this is what we're working with. We're pulsing tense muscles and we're pulsing their antagonists. And the result is something like my muscular system that's very, very soft everywhere, even though I'm quite strong for my size. My strength to weight ratio is good. Grounding. Bring your awareness into your body. Grounding. This is the ground. This is earth element, my body. Ground. Bring your awareness back into your body. This is a very grounding, connecting to yourself, because it's only you engaging your Psoas. It's only your Psoas. It's no one else's Psoas. We don't contemplate our neighbor's physiology while I'm trying to isolate the Psoas. We're deeply connecting to this it touches your spine. The Psoas touches your diaphragm. And it's deep down in your groin, so there's all kinds of muscle patterns around our groin, our sexual organs, our belly, abdominal organs, our diaphragm, heart. And we're tapping into that code, the code in our nervous system that patterns all of these things. There are no muscular contractions where there is not nervous system activity, unless an external stimuli with a shocker comes along. So all of your clenching is your mind clenching. And we can reverse the flow by relaxing through engagement, and then it relaxes the mind. And then there's more space, which is arguably the pursuit of Hatha Yoga, is space. Space in the body, space in the mind, space in the breath. Just more space gives more options. More options gives more power. Power gives more responsibility, so you take yourself to where you want to go only if you have enough space to move. So we create more space. This is not basic. This is not easy stuff. It's not particularly hard physically, but it's kind of mentally, you develop focus. This is called a samyama practice. Samyama is a Sanskrit word which means combining concentration, meditation, and absorption into the process. So you develop your ability to focus on a muscle. You burn the image of the muscle into your mind so you can close your eyes and you see it. You see the fibers. You see the attachment points on the skeleton. Then you begin to connect the image to the feeling. I feel the attachment. And then I engage it. I feel the awakening of the muscle. This is grounding. You bring your awareness into it. And so it's basic. What it is reductionist. This is reductionist. This is forget the rest of the body. Just look at the lesser trochanter and the upper lumbar spine and the line that goes between it. Forget everything else. Just do this part. That's the Psoas. So it's reductionist, and then we piece them together like we did in Down Dog. We pieced together 5 activations.